Welcome to the deep dive. So you've handed us the complete opening round results for AFT Dice Season 11.
Yep, the data's all here.
And this is based on those performance models you created. So this isn't just about, reading a scoreboard.
Mm-hmm.
It's about testing those early assumptions. Who has the winning formula and who maybe needs to go back to the drawing board.
Right.
So our mission today is to unpack it all. The big wins, the surprising upsets, and really understand the core dynamics that were set up in round one.
Mm-hmm.
We need to chart these early metrics so you understand exactly what's at stake when the pressure really doubles in round two.
And this data, 9 completed matches, it's perfect for that. It gives us instant insight into the major momentum and, of course, the early struggles.
Yeah.
And the upcoming round 2 fixtures, that's this Friday, December 5, 2025, they're suddenly so much more interesting.
Because of the context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The motivation level just drastically changes depending on whether a team is sitting pretty at 1 there or staring down an 0-1 start.
Okay, let's unpack this by starting at the extremes. Because the gap between the best and the rest was, it was massive in week one.
It really was.
We have to talk about the blowouts first. They set the early tone for dominance.
No question.
And the definitive performance of the entire round, it has to be the Adelaide Crows.
Oh, absolutely.
They just dismantled Port Adelaide. They won by a staggering 66 points, won 38-72 at Adelaide Oval.
That is a massive statement of intent for the season.
It is.
A 66-point margin is an earthquake. You have to acknowledge that scoreline. But that number might be masking some structural issues.
Oh, interesting.
You see that number and you immediately think premiership contender. But we should probably reserve judgment on their true dominance until we look at their efficiency.
Okay, we'll definitely get to efficiency in a minute because that's a critical point. But that dominance, it wasn't an isolated event.
No, it wasn't.
The second largest margin saw Fremantle defeat Collingwood by 51 points.
51.
115-64. And that match was played at the MCG, the traditional home of football.
So even ground advantage couldn't neutralize that power imbalance?
Yeah.
But you know what's fascinating?
What's that?
If you take those 2 massive blowouts out of the equation, the rest of the league looks terrifyingly balanced.
And that's where the analysis gets strategic. Let's forget the 50 and 60-point wins for a second. The closest match of the round was St. Kilda versus the Brisbane Lions at the Gabba. St. Kilda just managed to scrape through by only 6 points, 104-98.
A 6-point differential. That's razor thin.
It means the competition in that middle tier is just incredibly tight.
And that result, that tells you the game went right down to the final minute. We also saw Richmond beat Melbourne by only 8 points in a real high-scoring affair.
136-128, that one.
Yeah, and Hawthorn defeated the Western Bulldogs by just 7 points. And the West Coast Eagles, they managed a tight 9-point win over Carlton.
So we have this huge variance from 6 points to 66.
A massive spread.
The key strategic takeaway here for you, the listener, is that we have maybe 2 teams emerging as these outright dominant forces, the Crows and Fremantle,
Yeah.
while the vast majority of the competition is so evenly matched that the outcome of their round 2 games is almost statistically unpredictable.
Right. Based on round 1 margin alone, you can't call it. For them, it's all going to come down to critical execution.
Exactly. And to understand that critical execution, we have to look past the final margin.
Analyze the conversion rates. Goals versus behinds. That tells us who was clinical and who was just wasteful.
So let's start with that wastefulness you hinted at earlier, the Adelaide Crows. Highest score overall, 138 points.
A huge number.
But how did they get there? 20 goals and 18 behinds.
18 behinds, that's the number.
So while it's a colossal score, those 18 behinds mean they potentially left another, 4 or 5 goals on the field?
At least. They achieved dominance through overwhelming volume, not surgical precision.
Okay, so let's contrast that with Richmond. They had a close win, but their high score of 136 points was built on far greater efficiency.
Much greater. 21 goals and 10 behinds.
So they actually had more goals than the Crows, but way fewer total scoring shots.
And in a game decided by only 8 points, Richmond's efficiency was the absolute difference between winning and losing.
That's a key early indicator then, a sign of a well-drilled side.
A huge one.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about key indicators, we have to discuss the third quarter.
Right, the premiership quarter.
That period right after halftime where games are so often won or lost
Right.
because of these big momentum shifts.
Take Fremantle. They ended up crushing Collingwood by 51 points, but they were actually trailing at the half, 38-43.
Yep, they were behind.
But they came out after the main break and just flipped the script in that third quarter.
Completely.
They went from 7 goals, 7 behinds, to 11 goals, 11 behinds by the final break. That decisive shift, that 4-goal swing in one quarter, that's where they built their margin.
And that third quarter turnaround, that is a marker of tactical adaptability. We saw the West Coast Eagles do something similar, just in a tighter game.
Against Carlton, yeah.
They were neck and neck, but they set up their narrow 9-point win by having a huge third quarter, scoring 31 points.
So they created a buffer.
A buffer they desperately needed to hold off Carlton's inevitable final quarter charge. In these close contests, that third quarter surge isn't just about fitness, it's about decisive momentum management.
Okay, now if we've analyzed who did what, let's shift focus to round 2, because the consequences are immediate in these next matchups.
Yeah, we can basically categorize these fixtures based on the WL status of the teams to see what's at play.
Let's do it.
First, let's identify the must-win bounce-back matches, the loser versus loser clashes.
Okay.
These teams are under maximum pressure to avoid starting the season 0-2. That just drastically reduces your mathematical chances of making playoffs later on.
So who's in that bracket?
We see Collingwood, still reeling from that 51-point defeat, taking on Essendon, who also lost at the MCG.
Right.
Then you have Carlton facing Melbourne at Marvel Stadium, and the Sydney Swans clashing with Port Adelaide at the SCG.
So for those 6 teams...
Failure to get a win here is psychologically devastating.
And absolutely. The level of desperation in those LL matchups is going to be palpable. So on the flip side, what about the clash of the undefeated?
The winner versus winner games. These fixtures are where we test that early form. They could identify the small group of teams who are legitimately challenging for top 4 status.
Okay, lay them out for us.
You've got the GWS Giants taking on the West Coast Eagles at Giant Stadium, both coming off tight wins. And you have St. Kilda, fresh off their 6-point escape, meeting the Gold Coast Suns at Marvel Stadium.
But the most intriguing test in this category has to be Hawthorn, who won by just 7 points, facing Fremantle, who dominated by 51.
Yes.
That game, Hawthorn versus Fremantle at Marvel, that's going to tell us if Fremantle's massive victory was an anomaly or if their offense is truly unstoppable.
That's exactly the kind of high-stakes testing we need. But if you want drama mixed with deep historical resonance, we have to zoom in on the marquee rivalry game for round 2.
Collingwood versus Essendon at the MCG.
That's the one.
Both teams are seeking immediate redemption. Collingwood, like we said, lost by 51, Essendon by 15. And the historical context you provided in the sources, it suggests just how competitive this game is going to be.
It's incredible, isn't it?
If we look at the historical head-to-head ledger, Collingwood's all-time record against Essendon is 17-0-1-0.
Right.
Versus Essendon's 16-0-1-0. Those numbers suggest a deeply competitive history that spans decades.
I mean, the historical parity is almost perfect.
So this game is going to be played with an intensity that goes far beyond just the 4 points available on the day.
When two teams that competitive both start 0-1, the urgency level is just at a maximum. This won't be a cautious tactical contest.
No.
It will be an emotional fight to stay relevant in the early part of the season.
Okay, so finally, we have to look at the winner versus loser dynamics. This is where a round 1 winner aims to solidify their position against a team seeking redemption.
And these matches are crucial for establishing the early hierarchy of the league.
So you have Richmond, with their high-efficiency win, taking on the Brisbane Lions, who only lost by 6 points at the MCG.
Which is a brutal schedule for the Lions, playing 2 high-quality teams back-to-back like that.
No kidding. And then there are the Adelaide Crows.
Fresh off that huge 66-point victory.
They meet North Melbourne, who lost their first match at Adelaide Oval. This is the Crows' chance to confirm if that dominance was an outlier or a trend.
Exactly. If they win big again, that wastefulness we talked about, those 18 behinds, it almost won't matter.
Because they'll have proven they can just overwhelm opponents with sheer volume.
Precisely.
And we also have the Geelong Cats, who won their first match, meeting the Western Bulldogs, who lost narrowly at GMHBA Stadium.
Yeah, and all these matchups are crucial for the round 1 winners.
Yeah.
They need to create that vital separation on the ladder heading into the second month.
This has been a really compelling look into the first week of AFT Dice Season 11.
It has.
We've identified the high points, Adelaide Crows' massive score and the razor-thin margins that define that mid-tier. And now you have a structured understanding of the incredibly high stakes for round 2.
Especially for those LL teams.
desperate to avoid the crippling prospect of a 0-2 start.
Which, this raises an important question for you, the listener, to mull over as we head into round two.
Go on.
Considering the explosive 66-point margin put up by the Adelaide Crows, a raw performance metric, what are the chances that level of dominance is sustainable for a whole season? Or will the historical head-to-head records we discussed, the ones showing deep, sustained parity among rivalry teams, ultimately prove more predictive of who secures long-term success in AFT Dice Season 11?
That's the conflict.
That's the conflict you now have the data to track.
That is a profound thought to leave with. Thank you for diving deep with us into the source material.
My pleasure.
Apply this structured analysis, and you'll be prepared for everything round two throws at us. We'll catch you next time.